Okay, yes, we're all speaking English here today. Looks good. Transcription is rolling. Recording is going here. All right, gang. Well, thanks for everyone for coming to our AI and EdTech Mastermind here. This is our second go at this. And I'm just going to let people in as they arrive here. So we got Brent joining as well. So general agenda here for today. Of course, this is teed up for us in chat. So we'll do kind of a welcome and some updates here. Talk about some of the things that we got into last time, some ideas and some requests, and then we'll go around the horn with some participant introductions. Today, just name, role, organization, and then some update or curiosity, something that you're actively exploring with AI and EdTech today. Then our main topic today is going to be on AI teachers enhancement or replacement, and we're going to look at the Alpha School model, specifically their 2-hour learning platform, the spread of that model, the first public charter unbound academy in Arizona following that model. And that's really, that's at the heart of today's focus because that's the topic that's going to stir up all sorts of ideas, feelings, excitement, terror, whatever else is going to come up. I'm interested to hear where everybody's at with that. Then we'll go ahead and see any other areas where people are looking for support, collaboration, tool requests or recommendations, that kind of stuff for things you're trying to accomplish in your organization today. And then we'll wrap up and see if from that we can potentially pick a good topic for next month. And so I did reach out to both 2-hour learning and Alpha, and then also somebody on X. I had a comment on X related to this topic. A big developer in AI that I'm familiar with has a fairly big following, and his kids go to Alpha School. So I got a commit from him to share a bit from the parents' perspective, but I didn't hear back from him in time to get a recording or something else to share. So unfortunately, I don't have anything direct from any of these people. It's going to be us exploring from the outside. And if you have tie-ins or connections to anybody, an introduction would be great because things can look one way on websites and one way, from news stories. And as we all know, the actual reality of things can be a lot different than that. I have wanted to take a trip to Austin for a while. I'm sometimes down in Santa Barbara to meet up with Entreport, our CRM partner. And so they do have a school starting in Santa Barbara this school year, 2025-26 or next. And then I've been interested in Austin. So one way or another, I'm going to visit and see what these things are about. But I basically think these are on a strong growth trend that we're not going to see this slow down. So let's start with a kickoff here. Last time we had our kickoff, we had Tim, an executive director. We had Aaron, an IT director. We had I forget who else we had from CSDC. So we had kind of an association. We had the IT perspective. We had the leadership perspective all involved for our kickoff, which was great. And one of the ideas from that kickoff is for us RMB to build a chatbot trained on the EdTech index, which I'm not sure how robust that is. Just from kind of a show of hands here, real quick, how many people use the EdTech index right now or are even familiar with it? Not so much. Okay. So it's got, I don't know, a couple of thousand entries. And we're going to test that out as a starting place to see how well our chatbot does, creating like an interactive layer on top of that. Because we talked chatbots a lot last time with ways we've implemented that with schools, ways we're looking to implement that with CCSA and CSDC. I was just at the CCSA conference, saw a bunch of you there, and One of the things I noted at the conference was there were so many exhibitors, there was so much foot traffic, but there wasn't like all the exhibitors mainly felt disappointed with the amount of like activity they were getting if they weren't right by the door. As an attendee, I made a concerted effort to go and visit each one. But had I not had that effort, there's no way, that the right people are connecting at the level that they need to. So that's something I'm excited about right now. If you like that idea as well, you can reinforce it when you talk to CCSA and CSDC. Maybe we even test it out with A plus. A plus has been a smaller, tighter knit community, so it's been a little easier to make connections. But the idea is that if people are better indexed on the front end, people and organizations, what do they care about? What are the topics that they're focused on right now? What are the business problems they're trying to solve? Then at a conference as well as throughout the year, we can use AI to make much better matchmaking between people. So if you're interested in exploring a particular topic or even just based on your role, it could make meetups and connections a lot better at conferences and throughout the year. You might create your own sort of mastermind groups within roles. And then exhibitors would get a lot more value out of that, as would attendees. So exhibitors aren't having to just sort of cold spray everyone with their message, but we could actually say, great, you're looking for funding facilities right now. We have 8 exhibitors at the upcoming conference that help with that. Would you like to, schedule time with them between your sessions right now? So the apps already tell us the sessions. People can preload those in. So that's the idea, is to build that on top of that. Should make it about 100x more valuable for exhibitors and however much more valuable for attendees to connect there. So those are open conversations right now with CCSA and CSDC. The chatbot on top of the EdTech index, again, is the idea that instead of just having to browse and not knowing quite what you're looking for, you can have a conversational mode on top of that EdTech index, and you can just say, hey, here's the business problem we're trying to solve right now. Which software is related to this idea and which seems like the best fit, and so on. So let's go around the horn real quick. That's my introduction as Jacob Griscom, CEO of R&B Communications, things I'm excited about and working on. And I'll just go around the horn on the way it shows on my screen here and start with Debbie. And Debbie, if you want to share your title, your organization, and anything that you are curious or working on with AI or EdTech implementations today. Oh, you were unmuted and then muted again, Debbie.
Okay, sorry.
No
I know
worries.
I'm trying to figure it out in my car.
Perfect.
um, I'm Debbie Gooding. I'm the executive director of the Learning Choice Academy. We're in San Diego, so we're just kind of dabbling right now in the IA thing. So I'm just trying to learn as much about it as I can.
All right. Excellent. David from School Pathways.
Hi, I'm David Marchand. I'm the Senior Product Manager here at School Pathways. And for those of you who are at our Fall Academy, I'm sorry, Spring Academy, you all know that we are looking towards introducing our own AI chatbot to try to help with schools to find information within the SIS itself and all kinds of other cool things.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you for pursuing. That's awesome. Mary Beth. Hey there. What's your job title? Which organization you with, and anything that you're exploring with AI or EdTech today? Uh-oh. You're not muted, but the input's not working. I'm gonna come right back to you, and hopefully we'll get that working. Tim.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tim Warner, Superintendent and Executive Director of Alder Grove Charter School in Eureka, California. And we're also kind of in the exploratory phase of AI. I use it for some pretty basic stuff, but I'm hoping to kind of move the general climate around it from fear to like, hey, let's use this as a positive tool. But people are scared of new things.
Yeah, excellent. Very on point for today's focus topic. Dennis, Mr. D.
I'm Dennis. I'm Mr. D from Mr. D Math, and we So we're actually in the process of developing an adaptive learning support tool for students that is for supporting them in learning, homework, questions, all of that. And it just happened that I happened to be in a meeting last night. I'm in San Juan, Puerto Rico. It just happened I was in a meeting last night where there is a group here that is based in Puerto Rico, and they want to open charter schools based on that 2-hour learning model, the school. So we've already been started the process about supporting them with how to develop curriculum and all that. So super excited about this because we've seen a proof of concept of the product that we're working on. It's super cool. And the company is based up in Massachusetts. Jacob, I'll send you their contact info because this is what they do. They're AI content developers. So it's pretty cool.
That's excellent. Yeah, I think as much as people can get kind of real exposure to what does this look like, what's actually happening versus stories about it will be excellent. Amanda.
Hi, I'm Dr. Amanda Fernandez. I'm a CFO for 3 charter schools, Clarksville, Feather River, and Lakeview. I'm actually outside of a conference right now, but I wanted to attend to this session. We are dabbling, I guess I would say. We're trying to see what AI resources work for us, and we're starting to look into how can that support our administrative team, as well as how do we want to utilize AI for students. So we're exploring right now, and we're trying out a few different things.
Okay, excellent. Well, first, I'm super honored that you are attending in the midst of a conference, knowing how much content you're already competing for at a conference. And I think that is kind of the direction I'm thinking for the next month's topic is the top utilization applications in for admins, where they getting the most utility out of it. Brent.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Brent Givens, director at Choices Charter School in Sacramento, California, dependent charter school under the authorization of San Juan Unified School District. We are using AI kind of spotty. We have a current pilot that we're using with CopyLeaks, which is a plagiarism AI detection tool. We use our curriculum catalog is through a company called Schools PLP, and they have an AI tool through Buzz Agilix called BusyBee that they've activated, which kind of went sideways because it started auto grading and creating auto feedback for all of our assignments for certain classes. So teachers immediately kind of were on the defense saying, we've got more students than ever using AI, and now we've got our curriculum is grading with AI. So we've just got computers talking to computers, and we're completely disconnected from students doing any work and teachers doing any work. So it was kind of a comedy, but there's some real underlying fear about how do we know what our students know and can do with the abundant access of AI tools, especially as an independent study school. And I get it. And the question is right now, things are moving so quickly that we're kind of on the defensive, where I'd really love to be on the other side of, excitement and how we can utilize this. But because we don't see our students 80% of the time, and because some of our new students, we actually don't know what their writing looks like pre-AI. So it's very challenging to know, again, what our students know and what they can do authentically in a remote environment. So lots of excitement and I'd say more fear.
Yeah, it's a great snapshot, Brent. Thank you. Lourdes, also from Mr. D. How's it going?
Hey, good to see you, Jacob. So I'm with Mr. D Math. I'm his administrative assistant, and I'm just here to learn and looking forward to seeing how we can implement AI for the betterment of our students, because it's coming and we need to be ready. So how can students use AI to help them navigate the world when they are out of, school and in school, and how to use it in an effective way, an ethical way. And, that's a big topic today. So just
Yeah,
very excited about the possibilities. I know it's been helping me a lot in my work. I've found some really cool tools for myself. Looking forward to using that with our kids too, with our students too.
excellent. Thank you, Lourdes. Kristen O'Brien just popped in there. Kristen, the prompt was basically just your title, who you're with, and then any interests or curiosities or things you're exploring with AI and EdTech today.
Yes, hi. I basically am just very concerned and interested in ways that we can pivot in the education world, especially with respect to independent study with AI, because without seeing our students, it's just close to impossible to figure out whether or not they're using AI, or that they're using AI. And then the question is, well, what do I do about that? How do I have a trusting relationship with a student without it becoming adversarial about, well, wait a minute, I think you used AI for those 2 sentences, that kind of thing. So as an organization, I wonder where we should go from here to make sure that students are learning and also stay within the law of independent study.
Perfect. Thank you. And what school are you with, and what do you do there?
I'm with Choices Charter School, also with Brent.
Oh, also Choices. Great. Teacher there. Yeah, perfect. And Mary Beth, let's try again and see if that mic input's working for us. Oh, dang, I'm sorry. No, it's not happening. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Feel free to put some stuff in the
I will
chat.
speak on behalf of Mary Beth. Mary Beth is another teacher at Choices Charter School. She teaches English and history, and she is a newer teacher to our independent study model, coming from a much larger traditional comprehensive high school campus. And so she's been kind of on the forefront of investigating AI, attending webinars. She was the pioneer of piloting the CopyLeaks program for us. And so I sent out the invitation, Jacob, to our staff and said, hey, this is more opportunity to have conversations about AI. So Mary Beth's here kind of collecting information and taking notes.
Perfect.
And I will say on her behalf, she's also very, very worried about knowing what her students know and what they can do because of the amount of online submissions that are being done using AI tools.
Well, I'm going to give a little kind of personal anecdote, and then my sort of thesis I've been operating under, and then let's go ahead and start looking at Alpha School and this 2-hour learning model. But in school, like history, the way a combination of where I was at in K-12, and then the way history was presented to me, it just did not stick. A topic that should be wildly fascinating to all of us, it just for me felt like reduced just to remembering a date, and there's no context, there's no connection. One interesting way that I've gotten much more interested in history in my adult life, and specifically, probably going into my 40s, I've become increasingly interested in it. And one interesting way I've used AI to explore history has been that similar to the Human Genome Project, where we start mapping genetics, and then similar to, Pandora did like a music genome project with the idea that you could look for common qualities in music. And so if you like this, you might also like this, and so on, and discover new things. Well, one prompt that's been really interesting to me is if I'm exploring some question or policy or cultural issue or otherwise, I will prompt AI along the thing that I'm exploring to say, can you pull out some other times in history that basically that its history genome kind of maps to what I'm exploring here today. And then I'll learn a little bit about how did it go for them? What were the influences that were affecting them at that time that led to, similar questions? What did they decide to do, and what do we know about the outcomes? So then it makes it very real time, very like as I'm exploring it in the moment. That's one piece of the thesis that I think AI does with education is it really starts to map what you're learning to the learner's interest overall and then in the moment really effectively, besides it being highly personalized. But my main thesis has been let's limit wasted human potential. That wasted human potential is the biggest cost and missed opportunity, not just for the individual, but for us collectively. That if people do not discover their real kind of unique areas of genius, if those areas aren't encouraged or cultivated, that not only do they end up living a less like satisfying, impactful, meaningful life, but we all then also do not benefit from that impact. And the idea of how do we most limit wasted human potential is, I've had this way I've phrased it is like decompartmentalizing or de-siloing life, education, and work. The more that those come together, the more engaging and natural learning will be. It won't be like you do learning over here and then you do life over here and you do work over here. That all three of these are integral to each other and could happen in a closer and closer environment. So then when I see the Alpha School and the 2-hour learning model, to me, I see like, oh, this is a model that is kind of doing that. And if you have not watched the news stories on it, definitely check that out. But the rough understanding I have it at this point is 2 hours of AI teacher education only in the morning. They're like in little sort of WeWork pods. They've got a screen. They're cozied up. They're on their own individual device. They've got their own. They're kind of in their world there, and they have 2 hours of this AI teacher entirely focused on them, whatever their learning objectives are, but also areas of interest. It frees the rest of their day up for not so much teachers as they call it, but guides that facilitate life skills workshops and projects. And these projects, I think, are what really blew me away is how engaged these kids are, how excited they are about what they're doing. And then just the stuff that they're executing on. 16-year-olds building really cool AI applications, 11 and 12-year-olds running an Airbnb business together, 13-year-olds running like restaurant businesses and stuff. Super fascinating, very interesting, but kind of in line with those directional thesis. I'm going to switch over to that page here. This is the 2-hour learning. So it's 2hourlearning.com. And these are the current schools.
I'm looking this up and looks like there's going to be one in my neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. They're expanding we've got one, there's an Alpha School coming out in Santa Barbara. That's the first one in California. This is the Unbound Academy. This is the first public charter that I'm aware of that got approved in Arizona. Which, part of that I think is going to be a real, is going to give us better data as well. It's going to show us how do things change? Because right now we're seeing it in a private school environment where, tuition is 10 to 40K per year versus a public school environment that's going to get a different diversity of students from different backgrounds and means involved, and are they able to get similar results? But a few things that were really interesting here. So the idea is academics in 2 hours, 2 times faster. I think it's not just the faster piece, but it's also the level of engagement that they're having. So this whole site is really interesting to explore. Here's what a day with 2-hour learning looks like. 1-on-1 academics with a tutor in math, reading, writing, and science. And then afternoon life skills to pursue passions and interests. Transforms the role of a teacher into, instead of really doing as much of the active teaching, they're facilitating kind of engagement with passions, interest, and with the using the AI effectively itself. Great little 45-second video on. Should we watch this? Let's just watch this. It's 45 seconds. Easy.
Take a look at these real test results from 6th graders. See how wide the range is? Their math ability ranges all the way from kindergarten to sophomore level. Now, if you were teaching this class, what grade textbook would you use? There are more kids who sit outside the range for their grade than in it. So teachers have no choice but to keep on dishing out lessons that play to the middle. It would be amazing if the student-teacher ratio could go down, but there aren't enough resources to give every student a different lesson. Until now. Today's adaptive learning technology can help teachers find the unique gaps of an entire classroom at once, and then give each student a precise plan and tools to fix it, unlocking their potential.
All right, so core value proposition of like hyper-personalized learning, basically an individual, super focused, attentive teacher for each student. And this is what we're seeing with the results, at least that they're reporting. Students learning twice as fast. Students, top 20% of students show 6.5 times growth, in the top 1 to 2% nationally. This woman seems real interesting. The founder, Mackenzie Price. I was watching some stories about her as well. It'd be great to meet her, get her her story and her take on this. And then the other one was just looking at this one, the results. And there's news and blog and the rest of that. But here's some more detailed results on the results here. Scores overall, top 1 to 2% across all subjects. Accelerating learning speed that was covered there. The white paper would be interesting. In fact, maybe we download the white paper and just go ahead and feed it into AI for some of the top bullets. This deep dive was quite interesting as well. I would really recommend checking that out. And look, this is the full roster, starting this in kindergarten, elementary, middle school, high school. And look at some of the differences here. Each of these are really interesting points at each of these levels. And then some case studies. So issue, solution, result. This was actually just a very informative website in addition to videos I was watching outside of it. So that is the topic here basically. Does this represent now an enhancement to teachers? Is it an entire transformation? Obviously at these schools it is. But when you look at that and you see that, what kind of stuff come up? Where's the excitement? Where's the concern? How would you see your school or your organization, pivoting in alignment with this? Do you go in alignment with this? Do you go counter to this and just do something totally different? This is sort of open floor to popcorn now and hear what are your thoughts seeing this and reflecting on this. And Mary Beth will want to talk, but she can't.
I want to come rescue you, Mary Beth. I want to come give you tech support right now because I know you do want to share. Actually, I might bow out because she's just down the hall from me. Did we lose your screen, Jacob? Were you still sharing something?
No, I stopped sharing at the end of that. Now we're just back in Brady Bunch mode here.
Well, maybe somebody else jumps in. I'm going to run down and say hi to Mary Beth.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, this is the direction we're trying to go in. We're just trying to create an adaptive learning AI agent. It's going to help our students with their self-directed learning.
Mm-hmm. What did you think? I thought this was really interesting how this is like full AI applied to a campus environment. So kids are there in person and it's that sort of thing. Do you see that this could be, do people think this could be like effective? And this would be interesting for choices or other non-classroom based charter schools or hybrid models. Is this more effective in a campus environment? Does it work just as well, fully remote? It's kind of like, it's the opposite model of the idea of having all like teachers in an online or a self-paced environment. This is like the opposite. You've got this campus sort of community almost environment that's leveraging AI really heavily. So that was interesting to me. Kristen, what do you think? How does this, what does this bring up for you?
I just have a bunch of question marks still. It's hard for me to make the leap as to how this might be implemented in an independent study format with the students that we have.
Mhm.
I can't quite envision it yet. I'm interested. I think it's exciting. I've seen other videos recently about other classes using it sort of in a similar way, where they are actually in person, but they have some time using AI, doing sort of research, and then bringing it together and presenting, sharing out what they found, that kind of thing.
Right.
I think it's fascinating, and I think it seems like it would be improving our education system as a whole, improving their ability to transition into work environments. But I just don't know for independent study. And unfortunately, I logged in late, so I missed the introductions. I don't know if everyone on the call is in what the different school formats are that are represented, but are we all independent study, or are we doing different types of programs here?
Let's see. Choices certainly is. Debbie, what's the nature of your school again?
Yeah, we're a hybrid. We're independent study and on site. We have both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Amanda's at the conference there, but Amanda, maybe you could say a little bit about yours too. I know she's in conference land, so she might be able to pop in.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
one of the things that strikes me is it's a re-examination of the idea, as I can tell, of like grades in the same way, right? So you're now no longer, which for me, like God, that's such a load off. Instead of having to be based, Amanda's is a non-seat based charter.
Okay.
So like
Similar.
one of the things is like if you get rid of the idea of grades, then you now no longer have to study for the test in the same way, nor do you have to teach to the test. But it's based more on comprehension. You're proving competence along the way and comprehension, which to me is really interesting. I think that's going to be a future element of work as well. It's so inefficient, the way that we do hiring, the way that we do interviews. It's just like this massive process. Imagine if we basically had just verified capabilities all along the way, and we had something like that could be enabled by blockchain or some third-party entity that continually verifies, yeah, Kristen's capable of doing these things. And then Kristen could then hook up her capabilities to a marketplace of immediate opportunities, projects, tasks, jobs, everything from something you could do in the next 15 minutes to something that might be a 3-month commitment to something that might be, an indefinite commitment. But it could unlock right there in the moment. And as long as you're able to complete that thing, the funds are already escrowed and it continues to just flow into your wallet. Even to the point where you could almost say, like, do you even need to know who exactly you're working for? Or do they even need to know who exactly their contractors are? So it's not only, it's part of the idea of limiting wasted human potential is not just that that people get indexed more effectively and the education comes in more aligned with that, but the deployment of people's skills and abilities are matchmaked much more effectively with what the world needs right now, with what an employer needs right now. And so we've got all these middle ground sites that try to do a job at that. But what's missing, of course, is that you still have to do all of this independent verification. You have to look at, and you have to still make your best guess on, is this person going to be a good fit for us? Are they not? Which the difference is, here's the task, complete it right now. You didn't have to do anything other than was the task completed successfully and verified. And that's kind of this idea with how this education's transforming as well, as I see it, is that it's going from, again, grades to, do you understand this idea? Great. Now, do you understand this idea? Great. And then as a wrap up, now do you understand how all these ideas fit together? And it's not going to get tired and it's not going to have to slow down the class for them. They're just going to be able to keep on working at it at whatever speed and level they're at, getting through all of the kind of core standards and core baseline things that we expect out of education, freeing up all this other time to really focus on who are they, what do they care about, what are they passionate about, and facilitating those skills and projects.
That's neat.
So that's like a very inspiring picture. What do people think about the transition phase from this? Because one thing in any market environment, especially if the DOE is actually rolling back and if states get a lot more chance to kind of compete along these models, it creates more of like a startup environment. You can have a lot of startup upsets, and people might start voting with their feet. This is the sort of thing where I could see a lot of migration between states happening, where if states are really starting to outperform, and California, for example, is just saying like, no, we don't allow schools to do this. That's like just one other potential big trigger for a next wave exodus. So I'm hoping that California, you know, uh, starts to create some doorways for creative stuff to happen in this direction too. So what does that look like though in terms of transitioning into more of this, maybe as a teacher?
I think part of it is just lack of training. Like, how do you even, where do you go with it? How do you implement that?
Especially from a distance. Is that even possible? Do we need to go back to more FaceTime with students from where we are now in order to make it work, or do we not? What are those kinds of activities look like that you can start to assign now for kids to do
Right.
as we transition into this new way of learning and thinking and being?
I was picturing one kind of interesting idea, which would be that if students were getting all of their academics taken care of through the AI, and so then what's still needed in terms of guides and connections with other people and adults in their community, this is another like big re-examination. The whole idea that compulsory education puts a group of people together simply because they're the same age in the same geography, and puts them in a room together based on that alone. And so instead, what if people get together in a more natural way, just because you have common interest, you're interested in the same stuff, you're trying to accomplish similar things. Setting it up so that a 12-year-old genius could pass along things to a 35-year-old noob that's interested in that topic. One of the best ways I know of learning is having to pass along what I know to other people and say like, well, how well do I really understand this idea? So what if if schools started to take a form of, okay, we know that the AI education has the basic standards covered, and that's just the most efficient way this is going to happen. And we have some surrounding things for people with certain learning whatever it is that for whatever reason might be excluded from being able to leverage that AI model. But then started to shift our attention towards organizing pools of local talent and interest. They were almost kind of like clubs, or maybe bordering on guilds and small like trade schools and that kind of thing. And the afternoons were all about just connecting people in with the like-minded individuals in the skills and areas and projects they want to develop. So this would starts to again de-silo or desegregate education from work, because this now obviously necessarily starts to bring in your local businesses, your local tradespeople, your local associations, nonprofits and charities, various other things that these kids can then participate in, and maybe even start on their own, help lead, help develop. Really interesting. So that would be a major pivot, but it would be a way that if you didn't so much have, your own campus to just facilitate these stuff, that it started to at least play an organizational role with guilds, clubs, programs, in a sense, partnerships between business internships, these kind of things. The biggest, besides the operations of that, the biggest question I have is one of the hurdles starts to become like, well, what are the legal obstacles we have to overcome to be able to facilitate those kind of connections?
Well, it seems to me that we're a little bit restricted by being individual schools within a system that requires us to jump through certain hoops in order to survive, especially as a charter school, for example. So I'm not sure who or how where this change starts or how it starts exactly. How much flexibility do we have on the school level? And I'm not sure what the answer to that is.
I'm with you. I think that is the main restriction, my main concern for such a heavily regulated area as California. The direction obviously is unfolding as we see it. Private schools get to innovate first because they have the least restriction. They show a more competitive model. The first and most adventurous states then approve charter versions of that same model. And so Arizona is one of those now. And that just starts to put pressure on other states, just like any market where startups are not blocked by incumbents. If they have if it's faster, cheaper, or better, these are the three things that make it so people start to get more of the market share than other places. The way that gets prevented is when you have incumbents and laws that say like, no, we're going to restrict this experiment from happening. Yeah, Mary Beth, can you have it in the chat there?
I can hear you.
Oh, such a bummer. I wish we could hear you. And I don't know if Brent made it back there. Okay, great. You're typing. So let's see what Mary Beth has to say about that. David, I'm kind of curious with school pathways. How does an SIS fit into this discussion? How do you start to adapt or include if there aren't so much like courses and grades anymore, and if it's gauging more of competency over time? How do you guys think about that?
I mean, obviously, it kind of comes down to what ed code requires and how we'd have to report and all that. I mean, that would just be such a paradigm shift. So we'd have to figure out how it all would apply and need to adjust the system accordingly. Not to throw a wrench in this conversation, I have a quick question though. Like, I wonder how a lot of these softwares are dealing with the issue of hallucinations. Like, I know I've looked into using AI to do like generated tests and other kind of ways to help, teachers produce materials, but it often gives wrong answers. And so I'm wondering how, like this 2 hour tutoring thing, you know, without a teacher overseeing, how do we know it's not getting wrong information, for example? It's just kind of something that has been troubling me as I work in this field.
Yeah, I think it's probably a problem that's like a snapshot of a moment in time. If you look at the trend of hallucinations, they're down and to the right. So I don't know what software on is like what the application layer, what they're able to do about that. But the underlying LLM, the large language model underneath, obviously these, mega corporations that are building those structures out are getting those hallucinations down over time. And the benchmarks are continuing to perform better and better up and to the right over time. So directionally, it seems like, it's not that it's a non-issue, but it's moving in that direction. And I would expect that at some point we're there. The more interesting, the curious one is that there are a lot of things that we take as reality, right? That we have certain like assumptions that are just so built into our culture that they're not these are like incorrect assumptions, but that we all agree on them. And AIs that are trained on the way that we think and the way that we perceive things, that to me is a harder one to solve over time because that requires being able to re-examine our own concepts. And there's really only one person that I even know in my personal life that can truly do that and has really done that work effectively. That's going to be the harder one to get at. All the stuff that we think is true and that we agree is true end up is not. And that's where potentially this idea of AGI comes in, that it's smarter than all of it. It can basically see through all of our own BS and come to new conclusions or put together new ideas. So okay, so Mary Beth, what data do we have about student performance using this AI model outside of the private school demographic? Zero so far that I know of. It's basically Unbound Academy is the first public charter. Its school year has been approved for 2025-26. So we should know by the end of this year, we'll have from August, September, October, and they'll have like 4 months of data, and we'll see if they share it and how they're doing. Or I guess, how does that go with schools? Is it like quarterly, or at what point would we have our first big sort of chunk of here's how the students are doing with that? Just anybody at a school. How often do you all this? Yeah. Is that every 3 months, 4 months, a full school year?
Per semester, usually, right? I mean,
Per semester, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, there's smaller testing in between, but
yeah,
that's when they usually get a report card.
I mean, the sort of no-brainer assumption is that they're going to do a little worse than private school students that are coming from families that have 10 to 40K tuition, that they're able to pay each month. So we're going to assume they have other sort of resources and things going for them at home and around that, so that these public charter school students probably do not as well as them, but really how do they do compared to other charter school models? And I think we're only going to be able to see that from this first one, Unbound, and then if I were to chart this, I bet this chart goes parabolic. I don't think this is something that's just going to be a slow drip. I think these are really going to explode, just seeing based on the growth of the private school model itself. Hey, Brad, welcome. I know you're with Sage Oak, right?
Sorry, I was late. I had interviews today and they ran super long, so I apologize. I wanted to hop on at the end, but
absolutely.
Sorry.
Well, we got the recording, we got the transcription. I'm going to throw the transcription in afterwards as well and come up with some interesting ideas. So
and you missed the whole thing about AI with interviewing.
You're talking about. Okay, I was gonna say they're not allowed to do that.
That's right. Yeah, AR interviews are actually awesome. That is definitely a thing. Cool. So what I want to wrap up with here, as we close out our last 8 minutes here to 4, I want to know what else is going to make this monthly happening really useful to all of you from the position that you're at. So just kind of around the horn one more time, what topic would be of greatest interest for next month's session, and then what other support or resources, and it could be anything. It can seem totally like a ridiculous ask, that's fine, or a common sense ask, and we just want to make this thing really magnetic and valuable for people coming back, and to go from the first month having 3 registrations to this month 21, 7x growth. That's great. I got to hit up the conference hard on that too. So we'll keep the topics interesting and then keep the surrounding resources and the rest interesting. Thank you, Brent. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Hey, I before I go, I'll share my 1 minute thought just so I can leave you with that. So I think if I'm speaking on behalf of my staff, the biggest issue that I think we need to leverage with AI is protecting our integrity with regard to learning and being able to confirm, again, what students know and what students can do, especially in our unique independent study model. And we're in hybrid too, so we have students that come on campus, but the reality is that our courses, our high school credits, our diploma need to demonstrate that students have learned in each of the content areas. And the reality is in our flexible model, it's becoming very, very difficult to ensure or know what students have learned versus what students have generated with AI. And that's the biggest issue that I think I am fearful of is what tools and what practices and policies do we create to protect the reputation of our school as being a place where learning happens. So that's what I got to say. I do have to leave. I have a thing that just happened I got to go take care of. So thank you so much.
Perfect. Talk soon, Brent.
All right. Bye-bye.
I thought that
Yeah.
was very interesting because I understand where he's coming from, but I think what we need to do is we need to reframe how we assess our students and how we teach them in the classroom and how we're expecting them to present that learning to us instead of like, oh, here's my paper or
Yeah.
here's the quiz that I took. It's like more a different way to approach how they are assessed and how we can get that understanding of what they learned. And I'm not sure what that is. I know like I was at a conference recently and we were talking about this and they said, well, instead of someone handing in a paper, they have to come in, they have to talk about what they learned, they have to give a speech, or they have to record themselves on, you know, the lessons they've learned from the assignment or whatever topic they're working on. And I think the other thing I'd like to discuss in this group is how are we maintaining or how are we still developing critical thinking and a growth mindset, especially with our younger students when we have these tools that just you ask the answer and it gives it to you. You don't have to think about the process because part of learning is like the process of getting to the answer, not just, oh, I have the answer. I have to know how I get from step, you know, A, B to C. And that critical thinking is what's going to be lost with if we don't figure out a way to incorporate that in with using the AI tools and all those things. So that's my
Exactly. Yeah. The summary I'd say of what you and Brent both said is right now our model is you have compulsory education. Kids are put together because they're the same age and in the same geography. They have to complete certain standards. The way that we measure if those standards are complete are did you answer the questions correctly on the test? So those are a lot of like core concepts that are being re-examined with this model. One, no longer necessarily putting kids together simply because they're the same age and same geography. Two, not basically not having just a list of I think we still want to have standards, but like Brad's saying, instead of it being that you answer the question and get a grade, it's going to have to measure competency. It's going to have various forms of that. I'm glad you mentioned the public speaking part as well, because I noticed that was a big component of this Alpha School. They're giving presentations to each other as daily, every day. They have to actually be able to articulate what they're talking about. And they're one of the ones I watched in a news story was they were competing against AI. Could they articulate it better than AI could?
Mm.
And that was really cool. So yeah, that totally changes those concepts altogether. The composition of these little subgroups also was changed, and that was very heartening for me. You had 8-year-olds with 13-year-olds and like that. They weren't, you know, and it was basically saying, hey, this 8-year-old is better than you in this topic. So they have something to pass along to you. They're getting benefit from passing it along to the 13-year-old, and the 13-year-old is like now inspired by an 8-year-old. So interesting stuff that gets reassessed. I see it as all really positive because I've been so, you know, frustrated ever since my elementary school experience and onward of like, you know, this could be done better.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we have tools that overcome a lot of the sort of constraints of manpower and budget and stuff, because this is you can get highly personalized now, and that's interesting. Okay, so let's see, Kristen, what other topics would be super important? What else for this group in terms of resources or otherwise?
I guess what's coming to my mind in terms of, in a practical sense, is what can we do right now? Like, what are some, if we wanted to start with changing the way that we ask questions or what we're asking the students to do that doesn't play whack-a-mole with, did you use AI? Did you use AI? But instead assumes and knows and understands that they are using AI, because that is the world we live in now, especially with their generation, and sort of embrace that in the way that we assign thinking and learning activities. And I just feel so incapable in this current moment of doing that. So I think if we could all come together to start on as pioneers kind of in that realm of trying to figure out, well, where do we start? What's the first step? If we just want to take a baby step right now without changing the entire school, what can we do differently right now, today, or next semester at least, with the way that we are teaching that will embrace AI and result in student learning?
Yeah, I love that framing, and I think that topic's really on point. I think that's a great direction. There's that, and then there's also kind of an unrelated one that some people mentioned around like best admin tools. Maybe we find a way that both of those fit together. But that's excellent. I'll work that and put some ideas together. And then also, what tools may support that too. All right, let's see. Lourdes or David, any final thoughts here?
Open to coming back and learning more.
Okay, excellent. Yeah,
sharing what we're learning on our end.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
we're developing.
What are you deploying and what's working really great for you, and how are you watching those results improve? Yeah, and yeah, maybe you can come back and we'll get like a 5-minute, 10-minute demo at some point as well of your favorite stuff, and whether again, if it's still in this model of, is it still basically assessing on did they get the right answer on the test, and is it scored and graded, or is it something different, or is it a mix of the two? And then David, School Pathways, any final thoughts or suggestions for topics or resources?
I mean, I can just say that we are going to continue looking into AI as a path and ways to help out teachers and educators to do whatever they need to do, from content generation to learning from the system itself. So it's obviously something that's really important these days and something we're going to keep focusing on.
Excellent, gang. Thank you all so much for making it this month. Hope to have a bunch of you back next month, and it'll be a new slate each time. This is a cool kind of chapter in history to be going through together. So I'm glad we know each other.
Thank you so much.
Great.
All right. Talk to you
Thanks.
soon. Until the next
Bye.
episode.
Okay.
Thank you for doing this. This is great.
Yeah,
this is
really
great.
cool. Thank you.
I wanted to ask you something. Sorry.